Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books, Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters. 12 volumes. Oh, excuse me. 13 volumes available at Amazon in paperback and ebook format, and a little explanation.
Wait a minute.
Yes, break out the royal trumpets. Take those stupid knickers off, you fool. Or are they pantaloons? Yes, folks. I just released the first of the 7-book series, Bigfoot Terror in the Woods regional. Okay, so the Northeast regional book is now out. It's a big book. They're all big books because we've reduced 12 books into 7. And the Northeast covers from Maine down to about Maryland and over to the easternmost Great Lakes. A lot of good accounts in there. And the audio book to go along with that will be up shortly. But right now, the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters Northeast Division is available at Amazon in paperback and Kindle as well.
And Bill, that is actually, it's a reprint of other stories that have been in your books, but into a regional collection, so you can see all the Northeast. Is that right?
That's correct.
Cool.
And, there was a lot of people, there are a lot of people who expressed interest. In fact, I had a school teacher call me up probably within the past 6 months, and he was taking a bunch of kids out. I think I told you about this kid, Kev. He had like an accelerated class. These were really smart kids. And he was taking them out in Colorado for like a Bigfoot expedition. And he wanted to know if I could point out to him accounts in the books that were located in and around Colorado. So thanks to our buddy Rick from Ohio who helped me with this venture, and Brenda, my buddy Brenda, I had a list. They were organized, because we needed to do this series. And so this is a good way to do it. So what I've done is I have the Northeast, the Southeast, which will be the next book in the works. Then we will do the Pacific Northwest, which will be Alaska, Washington, and Oregon. I think there's 85 accounts in those 3 states. Then we're going Southwest, Central U.S., from like the Dakota area down through Texas.
The big thicket.
And then we're doing Northwest, which is Wyoming, Idaho, and what's the other state up there? Help me out, Kev. I got
Montana?
It right. Thank you. Wyoming, Idaho, Montana. And we finish up with Canada, divided up into all the provincial areas. So it's a huge undertaking. My thanks to the listeners that have been helping me. And it's very interesting. And it was something that was on my mind. And our buddy Rick from Ohio, going back last fall or winter, Rick says to me one day, WJ, it'd be interesting if you could, organize these things by region. And I said, Rick, you are preaching to the choir. I have been thinking about this for a couple of years, and I just haven't had the time to do it. He said, well, I could do it for you. I could go through the books and, figure out what states they're from. And he had this thing done in like 48 hours. And then I took an atlas of the United States out, and I placed the numbers of accounts in the various states. And then I figured out how can I divide the North American continent up without making any book too weighty. I was trying to be even Stevens, and I accomplished that. The Pacific Northwest is, by obvious reason, the largest area of accounts, and that's the biggest book. But folks, these books are bigger than my usual ones, and there are maybe a buck or two more, but well worth it. If you don't know the Amazon deal, they charge me to make my books based on the size of the books, and then there's a royalty split in my favor above and beyond the cost of the book. So, you have to charge, otherwise why not make them? Why make them,
Cool. Well, Alex, I will take Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming for 500, please.
Okay, and the answer is, who is big, fat, hairy, and stinky wandering around in the state of Montana?
Sasquatch. Well, I'm sorry.
Correct.
Who is Sasquatch?
Correct. Always answer in the form of a question, please.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I could get an autographed copy of this first book.
Well, maybe if you could get one from somebody I send it to. Anyways, really excited about that, and it's always good to to get things launched, after you put in the time and the effort. And guys, you have no idea. I'm not even going to beat the drum, but you have no idea how much time goes into this stuff. So if you'd like to contribute and just make me feel good that somebody's interested in what I'm doing, go out and purchase a copy. So there you have it, Kev. What do we got in our cryptids in the news and other oddities today?
Yeah, today, Bill, we are going to the news.
Okay.
And an article that came out just a couple of weeks ago in Oregon Live, so from the great state of Oregon. Mm-hmm. And then it was also picked up in the Daily Mail in the UK.
Wow, both here and abroad,
well,
huh?
The Daily Mail is always looking for good cryptid stuff.
Yeah. Is that like the Inquirer over there?
I think it's like the British Inquirer. But it's a pretty cool story, and it takes place in one of the areas that a lot of your accounts also take place in, the 1.3 million acre Gifford Pinchot National Forest.
Yeah, that place is rife.
Yeah, out in Washington State. Mm-hmm. Just in the shadow of the great Mount Adams out there. Mm-hmm. And there are all kinds of large furry critters roaming around there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Bears, of course, cougars, elk, and some legendary creatures as well.
Yeah, like hairy women. Sorry, ladies. Hey, but if you have a goatee, I'd like to meet you.
So this gentleman, his name is Kelly Stolp, Stolp. He's 45 years old, and he came out with this story recently that took place in July of 2020, when he, his two sons, his nephew, his fiance at the time, and an old army buddy were out camping in Montana. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Stolp is an avid outdoorsman. So, spends a lot of time hiking, spends a lot of time out in the wilderness, and is also former military.
Okay, so to me, this is a viable witness.
Yeah, I think so.
There's no doubt about it, But, okay, so what happened with him?
So, at that time, back in July of 2020, on the first night, around 3 a.m., right, they're camping, and he's woken up by an elevated Yeti-like scream at around 3 a.m. in the morning. Okay, so he hears this scream, and he's going to talk more about describing it. That it was like a washboard sound, right?
Wow,
and
really raspy,
and he says brat tat tat, but it was also so guttural. But get this, they hear that sound, and then there's sound of a very large, heavy-footed creature running past their tent.
Great.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah, I can't imagine,
Yeah. And then the next night, okay, so this is at 3 a.m. the first night. The next night, around the same time, they hear this again.
My God. These things could just stomp you out like snuffing out a cigarette on the ground,
Yeah.
If they decided to just run through your tent and have their way with you, well, that would be it, wouldn't it?
Right. So, that first night he heard that and the stomping. He grabbed his shotgun and tried to wake up his campmates, but he said that they had finished a bottle of Pendleton whiskey the night before, so they did not, his campmates did not immediately wake up. He went outside, but he didn't see anything. But it's interesting. He said, I don't know if I thought Sasquatch, I thought fear.
Wow. Yeah, come on, man. There's a feeling, which I talk about in many of the accounts, of helplessness. In other words, when I end the show every day and I say, always carry more gun than you think you're going to need, you have no idea, we have no idea collectively of the feeling of helplessness that comes over you when such a thing enters your life. How many times, Kev, has somebody said, I had a gun and I didn't think it would be enough? It's like a rhino charging you. Yeah, you're going to pull the trigger, but this thing is probably just going to steamroll you into oblivion and then drop dead 10 minutes later, know? Wow. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So now the interviewer is talking to his friend's fiance. Her name is Olivia Corbin. And she said on that second night, I also heard the noise. It sounded like it ran right past our heads, she said.
Wow.
Very heavy-footed. We could feel the ground move as it was running past the tent. Yeah. And so these two Army veterans, right, they get out of the tent to scour the area, and they admit that they were scared as hell.
Wow.
They say it was very, very dark, but you could still hear thump, 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 thump. It wasn't a four-legged thing. It was something on two legs, he told Oregon Live. And then it disappeared as quickly as it had arrived.
Kev, I got to tell you a funny little story about my own self. Where we used to live in the woods behind our house?
Yep, where we grew up.
Right. Now, I used to practice by myself. I used to practice trying to run through the leaves in the brush off the trail as quietly as I could. And I wasn't trying to cut back on how fast I was going. In my mind, no offense to our Native American friends, I was trying to mimic what I believe would be an Indian running through the woods. And it incorporated a lot more leg muscles to be light-footed and move quickly than kind of thumping along.
Sure.
And you could go back and forth. If you ran more flat-footed, you made a lot more noise. If I can't even describe it to you what I used to do, but it was a specific way I ran, which was pretty damn quiet. And I have a feeling that these Bigfoot creatures intentionally do the ground and pound with the big feet when they're trying to, like, intimidate.
Oh, that's an interesting theory.
Yeah, or to let you know.
Just tromping along.
Yeah, because obviously they're woodland creatures and they could walk quietly. They're not going to come stomping up to a deer they're trying to wrangle. I have a feeling this is an intimidation thing or a sign of bravado or strength. So
I like the theory. I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah, because you think about it. If they're stalking something or even the initial charge to get something, they may want to just keep the advantage for as long as they can before it might get into a full-on run to the finish. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it's just a theory, but
hey, it's logical.
Here we are, you know.
I like it. Mm-hmm. So Kelly Stolp, the guy who saw had this encounter and is telling about it. He says that back then in 2020, he only confided with a very small circle of close friends about the incident. And this is very typical, Bill, because he didn't want people to think he was crazy.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of his confidants was a guy named Tanner Hoskins. And Tanner latched onto the story back then and wanted to get to the bottom of this experience. So in August 2020, roughly a month later, they ventured out back to the scene of the sighting, but they didn't see anything. So, they couldn't find them, but they did go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Now that area, Kev, a lot of people say, well, we were here and we were by Mount Adams. We were, I remember the bone pile story where the doctor said he was in the shadow of Mount Oki. There's a lot of activity in and around that area, and it is a tremendous, vast wilderness. So, a lot of people don't identify specifically. They might not even be aware, hey, I was in the Gifford Pinchot Forest at the time.
Right.
It's such a huge expanse.
1.3 million acres. Jeez.
Yeah, come on. So there we go again. Another encounter.
Yeah, wild.
Do you think that was a Bigfoot? I do.
Yeah, I don't think it was a bear. Doesn't sound like a bear.
No. I mean, did they see one? No.
And I don't think bears stomp, when I've seen them. They're more like cruising along,
Yeah, and even when they run, they're not stomping.
No.
It's funny. Now, a deer has nothing to do with a bear, but, my neighbor has a gravel driveway.
Yep.
And the house is set back on what we call a flag lot over here. And when the deer, sometimes I catch the deer at night running down his driveway because they're coming from, like, the street. Maybe they jumped across the street and a car came by and all of a sudden they bolt. You could barely hear them on the rocks. You might hear just a little and that's it.
Yeah.
The animals are very, very stealthy in their environment. And Bigfoot, I guarantee you, is the same way. They can sneak up on you like a cougar and put the grab on you, and that's going to be the end of it,
Yeah.
Wow.
Very cool, Bill. So that's our account this week.
Interesting.
So good one, a hairy man from the news. And what kind of account do you have for us today?
Well, this is interesting, and I'm always harping on the fact that the people who are out there most of the time are the people who have encounters, right? You're in the woods, you're fishing, you're hiking, and there's millions of people that do this on a regular basis.
Yeah, you got to be out there, and you got to not have your phone up to your face.
Yeah, exactly. And you remember, Kev, it wasn't all that long ago where there was no such thing as a mountain bike. You know, we started out as kids with those little knobby-tired mongooses like in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, the little BMX bikes, kind of.
That's it, thank you, the BMX bikes. And then people started saying, wow, you know, maybe, and then they had the things like on ESPN where they were jumping and doing tricks.
Yep.
And next thing you know, we got these freaking $5,000 mountain bikes if you want to lay down the cash to go in the
even
woods.
Like
you know?
$20,000, man.
Yeah, bike racks on cars. So anyways, there's constantly a new influx of people in a variety of different ways going into the woods. And I guarantee you, we're going to see more and hear more. I hope we're going to hear more about encounters with these creatures because we are infiltrating their space in different ways. So anyways, as I begin to share this this tale with you guys, it seems to me that the more accounts that I receive, there is a pattern developing to some extent. And the reason I say that is that more than a few old-timers are coming forward in a way that tells me that they have to or they want to get something off the chest before they pass. And this is just another example of such an individual by the name of Reynolds Dreyfus, a longtime resident of the state of West Virginia. And for those of you who may be new to what I write and what I talk about, I had placed this one after another account from West Virginia in one of the publications. And this is what Reynolds had to say. Back in the late 40s, folks, I was living in the area of the Coal River near Lower Falls. At that time, one of my favorite pastimes was musky fishing, with three of my favorite locations being Middle Island Creek, Hughes River, and the Little Kanawha. There was some fish running through there in the 30 to 40 pound class. And besides casting a jointed plug for them, I had a certain technique that I used to be very effective in getting the big boys. Now, before I continue with my story, Bill, I'll attempt to describe to you and your readers, or in this case, listeners, what I used to do. My technique was first to catch some sunfish, suckers, or chubs to use as bait. I would then hook them lightly through the back and hang them from drop lines on some of the bushes along the shore. I used a big slip knot on the dropper so that the fish would be held slapping the water's surface, with only the largest of fish being able to pull the slip knot free. The other technique which I used was to trail a live sunfish or sucker behind my lure with no weight. Okay, so we got the picture here. At any rate, on this day, I had portaged my canoe into the Little Kanawha River, and I was working the area just below what was known as the Falls at Bulltown. I had caught more than a few sunfish and had begun tying them to a number of bushes around an area of about 1 acre of water. My plan was always, after having secured the baits, to paddle out of the area and remain still along the bank, in a position where I could see with clarity any activity in regards to the bait being taken. Now, for the sake of the listeners who don't fish, a fish slapping around on the surface may be the best attractant known to man for getting a predator's attention. And on more than one occasion, my baits had even caught the attention of coons and foxes on the shore. One day, a black bear with cubs was actually peering out of the bushes looking at the commotion in the water. Now, this fishing, and as a matter of fact, any fishing, is subject to the fish being in the area or coming into the area while you are there. The technique was proven, and all I had to do now was to sit and wait. I was in the canoe, hugging the shore at about 100 feet from my nearest bait, and some 200 feet from the farthest. I had 8 baits in the water, and they were making quite a commotion on the surface. I had been holding my position for almost an hour, and the activity level of the hooked fish was waning as they tired and in some cases were beginning to die. When suddenly there was a huge splash and the slip knot dropped on one of the baits furthest away from me. I was looking at the activity with great intent and grabbing my paddle when suddenly a large, hairy arm, followed by the upper body of a huge, hairy beast, leaned out of the brush, grabbing the branch and the line that was now attached to the fish. So shocked was I by what I was now seeing that I literally froze in my seat, hoping to God that the sting would not see me. This monster, which I now know was a Bigfoot, tore the entire branch from the bush, including the line, and pulled the fish out of the river and into the woods. Crazy, huh, Kev?
Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. By the way, this technique that I used was well known and used by many other individuals along the waterways. It seemed to me in the moment that this beast not only had been watching me, but perhaps many others. I say this because it had obviously been in hiding in the bushes and was well familiar with the line being attached to the bush. How else could it have done that, right, Kev? He's smart.
No, it makes sense. He's seen it before.
Yeah, so to my way of thinking, the Bigfoot had actually allowed me to catch the fish for it. Think of that. When I saw the creature, it had bent full forward from its waist, reaching out over the bank to grab the branch. From my angle, what I was seeing of its body, which was from the upper thigh to the head, had to have been all of 6 feet. And when it extended its arm and hand, the arm was enormous, with the forearm being maybe 8 or 9 inches thick, and the upper arm perhaps 16 inches or better. Its entire body was covered in long, dark brown hair, with the palms of its hands and face being somewhat blackened. Understand me, please. In these parts and in those times, there had been many folk tales and stories of such beasts and others, which had been passed down and kicked around for ages. But never had I nor any of my cronies ever seen such a monster with our own 2 eyes. And believe me when I tell you that me and some of the good old boys spent quite a bit of time in the deepest and darkest recesses of the region, both hunting and fishing. I had always said that if there was any truth to these things, then we would have seen them. And now I had. How about that, Kev?
Whoa. Now, what state was that in, Bill?
He's talking West Virginia.
West Virginia, okay. I was thinking Ohio.
Now, he said he was a longtime resident of West Virginia. Unfortunately, but he did state the area he was in of the Coal River near to Lower Falls.
Okay.
So, and he was into Little Kanawha, so we could...
Yeah, we could look it up. I know a lot of people do some musky fishing, including one of my neighbors in Ohio. He's from Ohio and goes up there and chasing the muskie all the time.
Yeah, so I don't know what state he was in. He just hails from West Virginia. Yeah. But, you know, you have to... There was another guy who was turtle fishing. I never heard of turtle fishing, but they use some type of baiting technique, and the turtles get hooked up, and I guess you're allowed in certain areas to take a certain amount of turtles. And a Bigfoot seemed to have been watching him and snatched the turtle. So they're smart enough, but like even a raccoon or anything can figure certain things out, you know. I saw a PBS special once on a raven that was able to figure out a 7-piece puzzle that led it to the food. And that was really interesting to see, including the use of tools to do it.
Like a DeWalt power drill, or?
No, more like a stick.
Oh, okay.
That was needed to knock something over to get to the next level of the food find.
Portable table saw?
A Makita bench grinder. A plunge router.
I'll solve this puzzle.
Out of my way, Bigfoot. So that is really interesting, and I'm just fascinated by the breadth and the depth of some of these accounts. And, folks, if you've seen something, say something. Contact me. And by the way, if you have contacted me in the past and you didn't hear from me, reach out again. Because believe me when I tell you, I have been inundated with things to do around these books and whatnot. And it's just been, you have no idea. So
don't be insulted, folks. He doesn't call me back either.
Yeah, don't be insulted. If you had something and you sent me your number, do it again. And like I say, don't be insulted. I'm just like busier than a one-arm wallpaper hanger.
Yeah, and if he sent you an autographed copy of the Northeast region, feel free to send it to me. Tell him it got lost in the mail. I won't tell him that I have it.
So, Kev, what do we have in our listener mail today?
Well, we got some good listener mail this week, Bill. Our first one comes in from Jeremy, and the subject is Travis. And, of course, he's referring to our friend Travis from Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, yeah.
And the message is short and to the point. He says, I love the podcast, but you guys need to work on your Alabama twang. And Bill, I don't know what he's talking about. When I first came out here to the ranch, they told me about UAPs and UFOs. I thought they were all crazy. Now I see them 5 times a day.
Well, Travis, now calm down.
No, I can't calm down. I got to go shoot a couple of rockets. I mean, do you see that stuff coming out of the mesa? I mean, you'd think I was crazy, but I ain't crazy. I'm a rocket scientist.
I love that stuff, man. And
I love Travis.
Yeah, that is Travis.
I got to meet him one of these days.
Yeah. Maybe he listens to the podcast and he'll contact us.
I'll tell you what, Travis, you reach out, I'll come and see you.
Yeah, he's got a few stories to tell.
I may not come and see you at Skinwalker Ranch, but, I will come and see you. But thanks, Jeremy, for listening, and thanks for writing in about Travis.
You got to work on your twat.
And his hair's getting taller and taller. You notice that? He's got like more and more mousse or gel making his hair stand up. I don't know. Maybe it's the UAPs making my hair stand up.
Maybe it's radiation.
I don't know. Let's go fire a rocket.
Kev, did you see the last episode?
I did not see it yet. No.
Oh, man.
All right. Tell me about it.
Well, no, it's just crazy, man. They keep hitting on this thing that is above that triangle area.
Oh, yeah.
And it's obvious by all of the equipment they're using and all the things that continue happening that there is something above that area that blocks infiltration.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing, right?
Yeah. How about, I told you, you saw the one where they were shooting the lasers, the cannon lasers up into the skies again, right?
Oh, yeah.
That thing blocked the lasers like it was cut off and began again on the other side of whatever it is. How the heck does that happen?
Absolutely crazy stuff.
Yeah, and now they fully got one borehole through the mesa, from the bottom out through the top, that next year, or because when they stop filming, winter's going to set in over there.
Yeah.
Next year, they're going to bore this thing out to like 18 inches with like a rock reamer, so they could line it and put electronic equipment in there to take measurements and gather data of what exactly is inside the mesa.
I heard Travis is going on a diet too, and I might even climb down that thing.
I'm going in the hole.
I'm going in. I'm bringing a rocket with me. I'm going to launch a rocket from in the hole.
We'll send that rocket from the bottom right out top.
Let's see what happens then.
I love that stuff.
Oh, man. All right. And our last email that we're going to cover this week is a long one, but it's really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and it comes from Mandy in Brisbane, Australia.
Nice.
Yeah. And the subject is Black-Eyed Lady.
Black-Eyed Lady.
Correct.
Wow, okay. Lay it on us.
He writes, "Hi, Bill and Kev. I finally caught up. Still loving the show, and with 250 plus episodes of binge listening, I think that says a lot. I've written a few times, but understand you guys are super popular and probably don't read all of them. Not true. We do read all of them, but not true that we're super popular. But I do hope you find this one. While listening, I've been inspired to collate my own collection of weird and spooky encounters from myself and my family. And I came across a story that I think would be right in Kev's playground."
Oh.
That's a creepy playground that I have. "My mom's encounter with a black-eyed woman in 1996.
Wow.
So, we moved to Brisbane, Queensland, from Melbourne, Victoria, of course, the state of Victoria, in 1995, and were living in a rental on a main road that faced a soccer field and some parkland. I can't remember what time of year it was, but my guess would be around about late 1996. The move was pretty spontaneous, and my parents only had a short time to find a house to rent and move. It was probably the worst house on the road, but it was all they could find at the time. It was December, and for your listeners, a Victoria December is far different from a Queensland December. It's hot and humid. Of course, they have the opposite seasons to us, Bill, right?
Okay.
Winter months there is summertime in Australia. The house had no front security doors, so we had to keep the doors shut and no air conditioning, with only the windows to ventilate the house. We lived in the house for 18 months, and not without several ghostly encounters, which I won't go into now. But one day, I was at university, and Mom was home by herself. A friend was talking to her on the phone in the kitchen when there was a knock at the door.
Uh-oh.
We didn't get many door knockers due to how the house was positioned on the main road and the lack of a footpath across the front. And with my mom always being security conscious, she asked her friend to stay on the phone while she answered the door. Now, this was back in the day when we still had landlines with phones that plugged into the wall and receivers that were on long, curly cables. She put the phone down on the counter to go answer the door. A short, scruffy-looking woman stood at the door. She seemed stressed, but yet calm at the same time. The woman asked my mom if she could come with her to her house as she smelled something burning. So, right, this black-eyed lady says, "Hello, would you mind coming with me to my house? Because I smell something burning."
What a weird circumstance.
Oh, yeah,
All
and
right.
then there are the black eyes. But Mom asked her if you had called the fireys, which I guess is their expression for the fire department. The woman just asked her again to come quickly, and I just lived down the road a few houses. There was very little emotion in her voice, and my mom has a great sixth sense, and the awful feeling in her gut told her, do not go with this woman.
Thank you.
The woman looked up at her, and her eyes were as dark as coal. She said to the woman, give me a minute. I just have my friend on the phone. I'll go and hang up, and I'll come right back. Her mom's a smart lady. Mom shut the front door and locked it, ran back to the phone and told her friend there was a strange woman at the door and that she would ring her back in 10 minutes and wait for her to call. Mom hung up the phone and quickly ran back to the door. Opening it cautiously, she found no one at the door. She went outside, shutting and locking the door behind her, walking down the driveway to the edge of the road, and looked up and down the street, but the woman was nowhere to be seen. The houses along her street all had high fences, and the front doors were not easily accessed. The street was eerily quiet, and Mom rushed back into the house and quickly called her friend back and told her what had just happened. We ended up moving 6 months later to yet another house with its own spooky encounters, but none as unsettling as the black-eyed woman.
Wow. You know, interesting that apparently this scruffy little woman, short, when she first came up, she was not making eye contact. She must have had her head tilted down talking to her.
Yes.
And then as she raised her eyes, you know, the black eyes became visible. You're like, whoa, what the...
Well, I guess we shouldn't be surprised, Bill, that there's a black-eyed lady, because somebody has to be the mother of these wonderful black-eyed children.
Yeah. You know, to me, Kev, it's just a demon wearing a different costume. You know what I mean? If you could really see these things for what they were, you'd probably drop to the floor of a heart attack on the spot.
Can I come in and use your phone?
Yeah.
It'll only take a minute.
You know what I'm going to do for you, lady? I'm going to take this long telephone cord and wrap it around your neck.
Hold on while I light you on fire.
Let's see how fast you can run, black-eyed lady.
And then we'll see if we smell something burning.
I'm going to light your wig on fire.
Oh!
All right, now, let's do a Travis chasing a lady with a rocket. I'm going to light this fuse.
That lady's eyes were black as coal. I ain't never seen nothing like it.
Oh, my goodness. Well, is that it for today, Kim?
That is it for today, Bill. Great podcast. Thanks for listening, folks. Thanks for all those 5-star reviews, too. I was checking out some of our written reviews the other day, and I love it. It just keeps us going. So thank you for all those wonderful reviews. And it is nearly the only way we have to attract new listeners to the podcast. So thank you so much.
Yeah, now we have a good audience. A lot of people chime in. And remember this, folks. If you should find yourself wandering around the woodlands in the outback of Australia, perhaps West Virginia, you best remember one thing, my friends. Always carry more gun than you think you're going to need. Sleep tight.